If you played Tekken for more than 5 minutes, you probably know who Kazuya is, as he's probably the most iconic character in the game. But what if I told you that there was a point in the series where everyone's favorite Tekken villain almost became irrelevant?
What did he say?
He has been on a downfall ever since his first appearance. And as sad as that is, his peak was at the series' infancy. Fortunately for him, he didn't suffer the same fate that Paul Phoenix has, and he is now more relevant than ever. So how did we get here? Why do I think that Kazuya was almost ruined, and when exactly did that happen? Today we're going to find out. The rise of Kazuya is fairly short, so I won't take too much time on it. In the first tournament, which I consider to be Kazuya's peak, he is our anti-hero. He joins the tournament in the hopes of perishing, unaliving, and stopping the life of his father. Thanks, YouTube! We also know his backstory of being thrown off a cliff as a kid by Heihachi. So we are supposed to root for Kazuya, given that Heihachi is supposed to be even more evil. And this is the genius of the early Tekken story. Even though we know that Kazuya is actually not a good person and that he will use the tournament win for bad things in the world, we are still expected to root for him, as he is seen as the lesser evil of the two. But once Kazuya wins the tournament, he immediately becomes the villain.
Well. How the turntables...
And there was only one man that could stop him in Tekken 2. Unfortunately for the rest of the world, Kazuya gave his father a taste of his own medicine. By throwing him off a cliff, Kazuya is now only interested in taking over the world and surpassing the power level of his father.
What does the scouter say about his power level? It's over 9,000!
This marks the peak of Kazuya's relevance in the story. With Heihachi out of the picture and no one left to challenge him, he is now the most powerful person in the world. It would be a shame if that were ruined. Turns out, Heihachi has survived the fall, and he is now the anti-hero we are supposed to root for. The two face off in the final, with Kazuya expected to be stronger. He's younger, already defeated Heihachi once, and he didn't just climb a mountain to get there. Well, unfortunately for him, Kazuya got distracted by John's beauty in his final fight. That caused him to get horny and turn into the devil. You perverts. Not even the power of the devil was enough for Kazuya, as Heihachi still won somehow. This is basically where Kazuya's prime ends. He was menacingly strong, the strongest person in the universe probably. He even became the devil, which is something no one could ever do at that point. And he was by far the coolest character in the game. I mean, look at his style, drip, demeanor, and now look at everyone else. No one even comes close to him. Want to be as cool as Kazuya? Then hit that subscribe button, and you certainly will be, at least in my eyes. Your support has been incredible and I'd love to keep it going. So if you enjoy the content, don't forget to like and subscribe for more. Kazuya's downfall takes an even darker turn when he's thrown into a volcano. Because apparently mountain cliffs aren't enough to stop a Mishima. Surely a volcano would do the trick, right? Let's not fool ourselves here. We all know that he survived it. He took a vacation for Tekken 3 and reappeared in the next tournament.
Just push me away. Everyone else does.
And even though Kazuya did survive, something that didn't survive was his relevance and importance in the main story. Enter Jin, a scrawny teenager who steals the spotlight. Unlike Kazuya, Jin is actually good-natured, and a hero that we can wholeheartedly root for, since world domination isn't on his agenda. Yet, with Jin entering the story, the spotlight naturally shifts to more characters, leaving less focus on Kazuya. And even though he did have an interesting story, where he was hunting down Jin in the hopes of ruling over the world once again, he ultimately ends up empty-handed, as his efforts were in vain. Embarrassingly, he lost to both Heihachi and Jin. Honestly, Kazuya contributes nothing to the story. If he were removed from the game, the plot would stay exactly the same. Jin would still get kidnapped, Heihachi would try to take his power for himself, but would fail, and Jin would run away. Only he would do it a bit more easily than before. It was a weak showing from our boy Kazuya, as he doesn't have any power in politics, as he doesn't own the Zaibatsu anymore, and he isn't even the strongest Mishima fighter anymore. In fact, he's probably the weakest one. After Kazuya was defeated by the hands of Jin, he lies on the floor of Honmaru Temple, as he rethinks his life choices, when suddenly a horde of Jack 4s arrive to ruin his day even more. He now has to begrudgingly team up with Heihachi, so that both of them can survive. Of course, Kazuya conveniently remembers that he can fly, as he is the devil, and he ends up betraying his father once again, leaving him to blow up along with the temple. These events lead to the start of the 5th tournament. Kazuya's reason to join the tournament is definitely the weakest one so far. His story is now in the ranks of the side characters in the series. He's not after the tournament win, or even finding Jin anymore. Rather, he just wants to know who set up that ambush in the temple. Once he finds out what happened, he just abandons the tournament. It's pathetic. This isn't the badass Kazuya that we know and sort of love. I mean, going for revenge is not the problem. That's pretty much Tekken in a nutshell, but you can always do that later. You waited 20 years to join the tournament to get revenge, for Christ's sake. And you still haven't gotten that revenge, by the way. Take care of one thing before jumping to another. Why not try taking Jin's power once again? You are the devil. Why only use those powers to run away when you can have an epic battle of the two devils? Raven was right to call you a coward. This is probably the low point of Kazuya. Not only is he not as powerful as before, he is now a coward that doesn't even want to face any of his family. He is on his own side quests and doesn't interact with the main story. Fortunately for Kazuya, doing those side quests turned out to be quite fruitful, and he finally gets some of his power back. He takes over G Corporation, who were the ones sending Jax to Honmaru, and he believes that this is his ticket to getting back on top. Meanwhile, Jin wins the Tekken tournament and takes control of the Zaibatsu, setting the stage for an all-out world war, leading us straight into Tekken 6. From the way I've set up the story, you might think that Kazuya would be an integral part of Tekken 6, and, well, you'd be wrong. He only appears twice, and in one of those appearances he doesn't even get a proper cutscene, just a boss fight, where still, despite being one of the two leaders of a literal world war, Kazuya doesn't even cross paths with Jin during the main campaign. Both are in the same temple at the same time in one point of the story, but instead of an epic confrontation between the two, we get Lars, acting as a mediator. What a letdown. Imagine how much cooler it would have been if Kazuya and Jin had joined forces to take on Azazel, the supposedly ultimate demon lord. Kazuya's motivation could have been his desire to absorb Azazel's power, just like he does in the future, or similar to his previous attempts to absorb Jin back in Tekken 4. But no. Instead, Kazuya runs away from Lars, with his tail between his legs. Again? You're running away again? That's the second time in 2 games now. Where's the fiery Kazuya who never backs down? Who is this person? Let's not even get started on his arcade ending. It's non-canon, pointless, and adds absolutely nothing to the story. Still, not everything is bad. At least he's supposedly the second strongest person in the world. Not that we've ever seen it in action though. By the game's logic, Lars seems to be stronger anyway. But that doesn't even matter, as Jin is the one who defeats Azazel single-handedly. That eventually leads us to the events of Retcon 7. Sorry, I mean Tekken 7, where we are once again exposed to the entire Mishima lore with slight adjustments that make Heihachi a good guy, only to tear him down a game later. This is also a game where Kazuya's star begins to shine once again. Having acquired an army bigger than that of the Zaibatsu, Kazuya finally shows his true colors to the entire world. as he turns into the devil on live TV. This causes his previously good reputation to go down. And we, the audience, finally see that mean, evil and actually dangerous Kazuya once again. We only had to wait 20 years for an actually relevant Kazuya to return. He's stylish and badass. It seems like his old self hasn't missed a day. Cool new Kazuya finally decides to have a full-on clash with his family once again, as he decides to settle the score with Heihachi first. The two have a brawl inside the volcano, which ends by Kazuya finally getting one over Heihachi. First time since Tekken 1. And that's great to see finally. Kazuya isn't the weakest Mishima anymore. We are even led to believe that he is the strongest one now, given that he beats Heihachi and Jin is currently weak and recovering. So this is an awesome return to form. But it kind of felt like there was still something missing.
You're boring.
He just feels a bit like a generic villain. But that only means that there is some room for improvement in the next game. Anyway, the story of the 7th game ends with Kazuya giving his father a taste of his own medicine once again, and Jin swears that he will stop the entire chaos. Which he started, by the way. The ending of Tekken 7 leads to Jin and Kazuya's clash in Tekken 8. And no matter how dumb the story is sometimes, the fights are cool and they are fun to watch. Aside from this part at least. But this game is a continuation of the previous one, so Kazuya needs to be even more over the top, as he is supposed to be even stronger now. And that is shown in his demeanor. He is much more animated than before and much more fun to watch. He is a true anime villain now. This is a true redemption for him, and in Tekken 8 he's probably at his most powerful. No one can even touch him. Until someone in the Tekken writing room decided that they really like Jin. So he came out on top pretty easily. Unfortunately, that means that Kazuya will never be the most powerful Mishima ever again. But I can't complain too much. Having Kazuya as the main boss again is still a huge improvement, compared to his role in the 4th, 5th and 6th games. My theory is that having 3 main characters at once was too much to handle for writers, so that's why they only made 2 characters important in the main story at one time, with Tekken 4 being a bit of an exception. Personally, I think that Kazuya's days in the sun are starting to get numbered, as he is defeated in Tekken 8's ending. He is then found by John, who will probably cleanse his evil, at least temporarily. And with Heihachi returning, my guess is that he and Reina will now be the new villains of the series. Kazuya might join the good side now, sort of like Vegeta. But I don't think that Kazuya will ever be as powerful as he was in this game. That's not a bad thing though, as long as he's still important and somewhat powerful. It could also create some interesting conflicts in his head, but we will see what happens next. Kazuya's story is a great example that it is never too late for characters to have a redemption arc, and that gives me hope that all of our side characters that have basically been thrown in the dumpster could still have their redemption arcs and have their stories improved. Unfortunately, most characters don't have last names Mishima or Kazama, so they won't be saved, and sometimes even the name Kazama isn't enough. But I covered that already. Anyway, that was all from me. Let me know what you think of Kazuya's redemption arc. Do you think that it was good to have him back at his strongest? Or should he remain as weak as he is in the game? Also, thank you guys for watching, and I'll talk to you soon.